Well, if your blood sugar is dropping, your brain's going to say, forget about whatever diet you think you're on. You need some quick sugar right now. Yeah. So the pre-diet is really to kind of preface all that. And then you're, more willing to continue that. And you can also just find exactly which foods really work well for you and, contribute to good energy levels, feeling good mood, all of that type of stuff. So it just makes everything else that you do after that 10 times more successful.
You're listening to the Keep Your Plants On podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Tobias, an overzealous health coach for the overwhelmed people. Here, I want to sift through the noise of diet culture and give you tangible ways to create your own health rather than following everyone else's. I've come across a lot of inspiring, creative, and mind-blowing people, so might as well record them. Okay, so today on the podcast, we have Ali Parkerson from Parkside Nutrition. She is the owner and she is the nutrition coach there. Ali, I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I kind of want to just dive into it. Tell me a little bit about you and your journey and what makes you so vibrant when it comes to nutrition.
So I knew I wanted to do something health-minded, medical-minded, didn't really know what. So started out with biology and chemistry at college. And then I think my senior year, I started to realize that maybe the pre-physician's assistant route that I thought I wanted to go to wasn't quite for me. My sister started to get into CrossFit and more into nutrition while she was in physical therapy school. And she's like, hey, I think you should look into this stuff. And so a couple of nutrition challenges later, I was just like, wow, this stuff is really powerful. And I didn't really have any, big issues or anything. And I just felt so much better. In college, I used to get, college and high school, I would get migraines that would take my vision away. And those were greatly improved by just doing a really simple elimination diet. I was like, this stuff is powerful and it can really help people feel better with relatively little intervention, right? Because we're all in control of the food that we eat. You're not relying on medications or, advanced therapies or anything like this. People can do this themselves. So I started to get really excited about that. And then my dad had a really long battle with prostate cancer. And I remember going to his appointments kind of before they were starting chemo, which was kind of the last plan or, part of his plan. And the doctor just said, nutrition matters about 5 or, might impact your results by about 5%. And it's really not worth depriving yourself. So you might as well just don't worry about it. And I was just crushed because that's something that we could do on our own. You're spending hours in the hospital doing, medications and therapies and all this kind of stuff. But I was like, the things that we have control over, like diet, exercise, trying to moderate your stress, getting better sleep, your nutrition was so, within our control. And to just take that away because you just trust your doctor implicitly was really crushing. So I was like, there's more to this. You can help more people on the prevention side of things. So that just really lit a fire underneath me to this is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to help people this way.
Wow. Yeah, that would light a fire under anyone. I am so sorry. That just frustrates me, even listening to that story, because again, it is making you take control away from yourself and control that really is there. And basically saying your health is really not yours to dictate.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's you don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. It's you can't control that. Especially something like cancer, you don't know. It's a big, so that was, big motivator.
Yes. Okay. So tell me about what those next steps were for you.
Finished undergrad. And then I had a really good professor say, hey, I think you should look more into this nutrition stuff. You're pretty nerdy about it. So I found a nutritional therapy practitioner's course, which was, I think, maybe 9 months, mostly online, couple of seminar weekends. And I was like, okay, that's pretty interesting. I think I can, invest more into this. And at their annual conference, I found the University of Western States and their graduate program was in human nutrition and functional medicine. And that's when I really it hit home. I was like, okay, this is what I'm looking for. I was looking for, a higher level, I just wanted to learn more. And it was online distance course. They worked in conjunction with the Institute for Functional Medicine. So we got access to a lot of their education materials, which I was just geeking out over. And And then I've done another nutrition certification through Nutrition Coaching Institute, NCI, because I wanted to learn more about the quantity side. Grad school was great for, like the first like holistic nutrition was great, but they really didn't talk about, energy in versus energy out or any kind of quantity side of things, which is still important. I myself gained like 25 pounds eating totally paleo, totally healthy food. And a lot of my colleagues from that certification were like, oh, that's so weird. I was like, no, I ate too much and I wasn't moving around as much. So it can still happen. And, so I just try to fill in the holes wherever I feel like I have a weakness and find a new certification. Forever student, I think.
I love that. Forever student. That's beautiful. Okay, so I'm kind of going on a little bit of a tangent here, but what do you think some of those holes are in the health industry right now?
I think it's and I think you probably spend a lot of time with your clients doing with this or focusing on this as well, is the mindset piece. Because a lot of people will come for you like, tell me what to eat, give me, all the resources. And I love to provide resources, but then people don't do it or they don't take action on it because their mindset's still like, oh, well, I just have to follow these steps and then I'll get to, point B. But they don't have either, they don't take action on it or they're just approaching it in the wrong state of mind. Like, this is my diet. And it's like, no. Step 0 before even 1, like this is not a diet for you. This is a lifestyle. This is what, healthy people do. If you truly want to be a healthy person, like these are the things that you do now. It's not just like, I need to do this to achieve this. Like This is your new identity. And spending some time on that mindset piece. And that's definitely something, it's super fascinating, the psychology of it. And that's definitely probably a big weakness in my repertoire because I don't specialize in like eating disorders or like the psychology part of it, but trying to put it in a frame of mind as far as like habits and just kind of framing people or priming their mindset is what I try to focus on. But it's definitely something I'm more interested about or learning more.
Yeah. No, I definitely think that is a huge missing link. I think that there is a strong school of thought right now when it comes to personal development and the field of habits and the field of behavioral psychology. And there's people that are like changing their lives in that arena, reading book after book after book. And then there's the health industry, which is just telling you what to eat and never focusing for a second on the human element, never focusing for a second on why someone's eating or even how they're eating. Like exactly what you're just saying, that paleo diet, but you finished your lunch while answering emails and you finished it in 5 seconds, then went back for seconds and thirds and now wondering why you're gaining weight eating paleo. Like there's more than just, I was actually talking to a client yesterday and she was saying how successful she is on diets. Like she's just a new client. So I was like, okay, I was like, tell me a little bit what that means. Like, why do you have to be on a diet to be successful? And she's like, well, I just had bad habits. I was like, do you think maybe that's worth digging into? Like, maybe let's dig into the habits and the why you do what you do, because at some point, you're going to stop following a meal plan. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're going to stop following a checklist and you're left with you. Yeah. So either you change you or you change some part of yourself and then go back and set yourself up. And you understand this because you went back to the quantity portion. Mm-hmm. But when you do these diets and then you come back to eating how you were before, you're actually metabolically in a worse place because you lowered your body's metabolism adapts. Yes. And now you are running on less energy and now you give it a lot more energy and you're going to gain weight a lot faster. So sorry, as you can tell, this me up. Like,
so on the same page though, like everything you're saying, I'm like, yep, yep. Because, and I think I can think of like at least 10 people, whether clients or patients through the clinic, that say that. They're like, I'm really sick. And it's almost like a brag. Like you said, they're like, I'm really successful on diet. Like, I'm really good at losing weight. Yeah, I know. And they kind of like are trying to discredit you. Like, I know how to do this. I'm like, but you have not been sustainably successful yet. So we need to do something different. Congratulations, you lost the weight, but you've never kept it off. Yeah. So like the diets didn't work. This is your new lifestyle. Like and they get so annoyed when I get hung up on their words. I'm like, we can't go any further. Like that's
they're like, give me rules, and you're like, okay, well, we have to kind of go back. And that's actually one of the main reasons why I wanted to have you on the podcast today, Ali, because you are a pioneer in what you have termed the pre-diet philosophy, correct?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know. I think other people have different words for it. They'll prime people for a diet, but yeah, kind of, I like to focus on that part.
Yeah, I love that you talk about this. The way that I've heard your intro for this, and I'll kind of give our listeners the intros. I like that you said before, like, you kind of need to earn the right to diet. Mm-hmm. I want you to expand on that. What does that mean?
Yeah, so I think it's ultimately comes from a place of just wanting for people to be more successful when they do quote diet. So some people do like having that frame of like, okay, I'm actively trying to lose weight right now, and then we can actively pull them out of it. But then we actively have to, set the framework for that. And for me, a lot of people will say, and you hear the same thing, like, oh, well, I can't cut out sugar completely, or I can't cut out this or whatever. And, maybe there's some physiological stimulus going on and signals that we're trying to like kind of strong arm our way past, when you're not going to override those things if your body is truly stressed about it. So one of the big things is like either gut health or blood sugar regulation. So if you're having like these intense sugar cravings, like maybe your gut health's off a little bit, maybe, have some potentially imbalanced bacteria, dysbiosis, something like that, or your blood sugar is going up and down all day long, and you just think like, I won't have that cookie at 10 o'clock in the morning. Well, if your blood sugar is dropping, your brain's going to say, forget about whatever diet you think you're on. You need some quick sugar right now. Yeah. So the pre-diet is really to kind of preface all that and maybe and this could look like a, short-term elimination diet. It could look like a longer, 6-week one. And then we can kind of optimize the diet so you're feeling really good. So hopefully by then you're also buying into the fact that you feel awesome. Mm-hmm. And then you're, more willing to continue that. And you can also just find exactly which foods really work well for you and, contribute to good energy levels, feeling good mood, all of that type of stuff. So it just makes everything else that you do after that 10 times more successful.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I love that because I think a lot of people come in saying, really kind of like the person that we were talking about 5 minutes ago, come in saying, all right, I'm ready to diet. I'm ready to make this radical change. But in reality, they're not. They're not ready to diet because they haven't done the things that are necessary in order for them to get to the point where they are ready to make those changes. Because if they make these changes now, they're not going to be able to sustain these changes. And it might be too radical of changes to be able to get where they want to go. So can you walk me through what do some of these changes look like? Like, what would you ensure that someone has done before they come and start doing macros or doing a diet with you?
Yeah, and I think I definitely fall into that trap as well because you get people that are super excited and they've tracked their food before. So I'm like, cool, you're more advanced than I thought. Let's dive right in. And then you find out you really don't know how to weigh your food, or they're just putting like a serving of this or this, that. And so they're focusing too much on the macro side of things. They're like, oh, but I haven't exercised, or I haven't drunk water, or I never prioritize my sleep, and all those like super basic stuff. And so just kind of making sure that they have those foundational habits down, because they can, it's kind of like, what's the least effective dose? If we can get you to just focus on those little habits, and maybe it's just one habit that trickles down for the rest of the day. So for me, that's like setting up my day the night before, making sure that it's simple things of like having a cup of tea after dinner is one of the things that has been like so little. And so, you don't think it's a big of a deal, but having that cup of tea ready to go as I'm serving myself dinner, I hit the kettle, and so that's ready to go. And then I have that, for me, signals end of dinner. So it signals good like satiety cues, or, dinner's done. I can move on to my bedtime routine, and then I actually get to bed at a decent time. And then I get to, good rest, good sleep, and I'm just, everything the next day is that much better. And so that one little habit, so if that's something that we can find for that person, so changing that one thing in their day can cause just a cascade of positive effects. Maybe it's finding something like that, and then we can, that's pretty minimal effort relatively for, a lot of payoff.
Yeah. I like that routine specifically because I think a lot of people my clients complain about this a lot. There is a very ingrained in humanity habit that is eating dessert every night, or having something sweet after dinner, or not feeling like we are done with eating until we have something sweet.
Mm-hmm.
And I really truly think that does go back to like however you might be raised, or like, for instance, I had a client who every time she would watch TV, she was like, I cannot watch TV without having like M&Ms or popcorn. I was like, okay, talk to me about when did you start doing that? Like, why is that ingrained in you? What does that signal to you? And I love that you use the word, it signals end of dinner, because I think people don't realize how ingrained our bodies are with our environment, how ingrained our bodies are with like the habits and the cycles that we have going on in our lives. And we think like, oh, food is just food, but like it could be a signal. It could be an emotional trigger, a whatever that looks like, or just something that every single time you were having a bad day growing up, your parents gave you ice cream. Now you're having a bad day and you're wondering why you're craving ice cream.
Those associations are so powerful. I felt this as well. I thought this was so interesting. So with COVID and everything going on, everybody's talking about all the endless shows they're watching on Netflix. And I'm not a big TV person anyway. I just find that it puts me in a very like unproductive rut sometimes. And then later I'm just like, oh, well, there was 5-6 hours of my life gone. So I really don't watch it very much. And then it almost felt like the societal pressure to watch more TV because the world is talking about all these like, it was ridiculous. And the time I did, I ended up way overeating because that association as well of like, I started the show with dinner. So it's like you keep eating your way through all the episodes or whatever it is. And I haven't really watched like a series or, season of anything since, because I found out like, and I can listen because I know, we talk a lot about, how you're eating, chewing really well, trying to pay attention, be present and all that kind of stuff. But then you also still want to kind of relax sometimes when you're eating. And if you don't have someone to talk to necessarily, that can be kind of like you're listening to your own thoughts, not necessarily a terrible thing. But so I found for me that just listening to either the radio, some music, or something audible and not visual has been a really big help for me. So I can still kind of tune out and relax, but I'm looking at my food. And for me, that's been enough to really pay attention. Like I have a lot of salads or like mixed bowls. So you kind of find yourself like picking through the food and like taking smaller bites and like really being present, but you can still kind of get that, relaxing, audible stimulus as well.
Yeah. Something I appreciate in the way that you're communicating is you keep saying, this has worked for me, or I found this for me. And I think that's a really pivotal piece when it comes to your health. And I know that you're finding this with the way that you work with clients. There is an element of trial and error when it comes to creating your own health. And for some people, having tea after dinner, like, will do nothing for them. Like that doesn't help them at all. For some people, it will be literally a game changer. It'll help them solidify the habits that they want to solidify. But understanding that there are a million factors that contribute to who you are, that contribute to what you need, means that your diet is not the same as theirs. Your lifestyle is not the same as theirs. And that's something I think is really beautiful that you do with the pre-diet philosophy, because I know that you also try and figure that out with people.
Yeah, I try to ask really early on, because like you said, you get the people that say like, oh, I'm really good at dieting, I'm really good at this. And it's like, okay, because their methods or strategies to get to that end result don't match what they really want at all. They're like, they're so excited. They're like, I ate less, or like I fasted till 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, okay, were you not hungry? And they're like, well, kinda, like noon. I'm like, well, why don't we have food when we're hungry? Like if you're not hungry in the morning for breakfast, fine. But let's think about like, that kind of golden picture in your head of like what you want your optimal lifestyle to look like. And let's create some methods and strategies off of that. If you're a person that genuinely is not hungry in the morning and you feel just great off of, 3 or 2 meals a day, maybe you're not a breakfast person. That's fine. If you wake up legitimately hungry in the morning, that's fine too. Like, we can have both. It's about what your lifestyle wants, or, you want your lifestyle to look like at the end of this. Because I was just talking to a new patient yesterday, and he's having this super, super narrow window of eating, like an hour and a half a day to have like 1,200 calories. And I was like, and he keeps reiterating to me, he's like, I don't want to be too skinny. Like, I want to be strong, and I want to lift and like do powerlifting and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, but do those two things match up? Because I don't think so. Or even if you ever want to have brunch with your wife and go out to eat, or family dinners, like, other people you're going to be with are going to want more than one meal a day. And that's, you kind of got to work with that.
I want to eat 1,200 calories in that one meal.
Oh, I'm like, do you see the difference here?
Yeah.
So, like, can we maybe come up with a compromise?
Yes. Oh gosh. Something that is interesting, and when it comes to like those fasting windows, that's something I hear all the time. Like, when should I be eating? I'm like, okay, you have 8 hunger and fullness hormones in your body that are solely responsible for regulating your optimal intake. Okay. So when your body says, I need more energy, the way it is signaled is, I'm hungry.
Yeah. When
your body does not need any more energy to run optimally, the way that is signaled is, I am not hungry. I am full. If we are, so I used to have this little like template almost. I remember this is terrible. In my senior year of high school, I found this on Pinterest, and really just like a school of thought. If you ever are finding diet advice on Pinterest, just don't follow it. Like, never follow it. It is never right, ever. Like, even, I don't know how it's so wrong. But anyway, so I followed this one. It was like, success is, I don't remember what it said, but it said to eat at 6, 9, 12, 3, 6, and 9. And it was saying 6 small meals a day, eat every 3 hours. And I was not hungry every 3 hours, like, at all, because I enjoy like some bigger meals. And so I would be having like a bowl of oatmeal with peanut butter and bananas and honey. And then 3 hours later, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this again. And like, my body was telling me, hey, I don't need any more energy. But this external pamphlet that I was following was telling me that I do. And I was choosing to listen to that. So my ability to follow my own body's cues and to listen to my own hunger signals was completely diminished because I didn't listen to it. So I wasn't giving my body the job that it wanted to have. And therefore, I found it really hard to listen to it ever.
You just start to ignore those signals. And that's definitely something, it's a really interesting dynamic. So like, from my own weight loss journey, and just like from just learning things, but like, it's like, macros are super interesting. And as like a nutrition nerd, like, I totally geek out, and it does make it easier for the coach to like, cause you have an exact quantity of what's going in. But I always like preface that with, if you're not hungry, stop eating. Like, because people get to the end of the day, they're like, oh my gosh, I have like 60 more grams of protein and blah, 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 blah. Like, how am I going to, like, don't eat it. And they're like, well, I had to have 2 protein shakes. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, you can have 1. Like, that's a reasonable amount, like after a workout or as a snack, or, if you don't have access to a meal right then. But I never want those like macro goals to override hunger cues. And that's especially something, and I think like giving someone a general macro targets is good, at least, depending on where they're at in their journey. But, it can teach them, one, the natural types of ratios that they eat in. So maybe if someone's like chronically under eating protein and they're hungry all the time, it's like, hey, we need to bring that up. And so you'll be more full, you have more balanced meals, that type of thing. I think a lot of the fat restrictions that we put on with macro targets are really low and really hard to achieve by eating natural food and like having to have egg whites. And I think like sometimes lowering fat can teach people how to maybe pair lean protein with fattier cuts of meat, but it really kind of hurts my soul when someone has to eat like nothing but egg whites and like throw out the yolks, which are just so unbelievably nutritious. And because it's not natural. Like, if you couldn't eat like that naturally, like, who would throw away the yolk? That's like the most nutritious part of the food. So I think I'm trying to be a little bit more aware of that. But it's a great teaching tool for people. And especially like, as we kind of, graduate clients, it's like, okay, we've achieved, whether it's your weight loss goal, your lifestyle's on track, you feel like you've just got this down. We've done maintenance phases, we've done like diet breaks, so you know how to kind of do all these things on your own now, so you can adjust things if you feel like you need to in the future. We actively move away, and hopefully they've learned this through diet breaks and that type of stuff. But one, what their food naturally looks like, what their eating pattern looks like to feel good, and then also to move away from macros, especially in the last like month or two that we work together. Maybe we'll just start taking pictures of food and like look at it from a visual point instead of like counting every gram. And then you start to pay attention to like, am I hungry? Am I not? And you practice that skill.
Yeah. And that last sentence, you start to pay attention. Like, I know that for a lot of people, myself included, I used to count my macros, and if I didn't have my phone on me, I felt like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to be healthy. I genuinely don't know how to eat without my calorie counter and my macro counter telling me like how much I'm allowed to have, because I wasn't paying attention. I wasn't paying attention to, hey, this is what a good serving of food looks like for me. I was waiting for someone else to tell me. And again, taking away all signals between my food and my body and my mind. When I asked you before what those holes in our industry kind of look like to you, I think just in what you were just saying, you are filling yet another hole. And I really appreciate that. Like, okay, even just talking about fat intake, I think that's a really big kind of discrepancy between like two schools of thought when it comes to like the weight loss industry and the macros industry, and then the health and wellness industry. Because if these chronically low numbers of fat intake, specifically for females, is going to really hurt the female hormonal profile. Like females need healthy levels of anti-inflammatory fats, like omega-3 fats. Those are found in avocados, found in those egg yolks, found in fatty fish, and all the things that you cannot have when you're following a bodybuilder macro template. And I think there's a couple things wrong with that. Number one is if we constantly say that this like shredded six-pack bodybuilder is the essence of health, and neglect the fact that the last 5 months of that woman's life were severe restriction and sugar-free and fat-free synthetic products in order to get there, then we have an unrealistic expectation. And then on the other side, like when you're saying your systems have to match your goals, of if your goal is to feel better and your systems are to eat all, like I said, those sugar-free, fat-free foods to fit in your macros, you're not going to get there.
Right. Or so, you're not going to stay there.
Yeah. So
sure.
Like that necessary balance is something that I think you're doing an amazing job of providing for your clients. Of, okay, understand your food. Understand that you might need different levels of macronutrient breakdowns. And you're going to feel different on those different levels, because every single macronutrient, which if you're listening to this and you're not sure what macronutrients are, that's protein, carbs, and fats. But different breakdowns of macronutrients are going to make you feel differently because our body processes them differently. But I'm a big fan, Ali. I'm happy to see someone else doing the deeper work of understand your food and then have a healthy relationship with it and then eat naturally. Like there's a process.
Absolutely. And I mean, and everybody's can be a little bit different. I have clients that have no trouble eating lower fat type diets. They just don't seem to crave it. They're full, they're fine with it. And I'm just like, I would be craving peanut butter at that level. But they don't care. And they would rather have a higher carbohydrate intake. And as long as that's like higher quality stuff, mostly like non-processed things, I'm cool with it, because I don't want to, kind of force my opinions on them. Like, you need to have more fat. If they're having like a relatively like decent amount, and it doesn't take much fat, honestly, to have like 35 or, 30 to 35% of your calories coming from fat. And that's a pretty, even split across the board. And there's, different methods. So if I have a client that's really trying to hit CrossFit hard and, maybe we'll decrease fat a little bit because we want their carbs to go up so they can kind of better go for that. But yeah, it just depends. Are you an athlete trying to go after, a super shredded physique to perform better for your sport? If it's a body weight class sport or anything like that, like that's a different goal. And like you said, that's not the picture of health. Like being shredded on stage for a bikini competition is not the picture of health. Is to achieve that end goal. And so hopefully those people also have a coach that can pull them out of that phase and maybe back to a maintenance, reverse diet, and a healthier kind of natural state. Because that's definitely not a long-term goal for most people. You can live a lean lifestyle, but yeah, it's quite often, that's not based off of macros. It's usually a whole food if they're going to stick to it long-term.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because if someone's goal is, there's a big difference in the macro breakdown when someone's goal is performance and someone's goal is aesthetics. Like aesthetics being on that stage, if you took that girl who is on that stage right now, pointing to someone for something, if you took her and you entered her into a CrossFit competition, she would not get through one round. No. And what's interesting is like with your really high performance athletes, you're probably not focusing as much on, like, you're not focusing at all on fat loss. Because they actually might need to have a small amount of fat reserves in order to sustain the high level of performance that they're sustaining. And I had a client who, very high level CrossFit athlete, and she was awesome. And one thing that I was explaining to her is like, if you are requiring kind of like unnatural amounts of exercise from your body, you have to be okay with the fact that you might feel unnatural in the way that you fuel it. Because if you're trying to just listen to your body when you eat, but you're absolutely not listening to your body when you exercise, it's very simple, but a lot of people miss that. Mm-hmm. So I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but one thing I did want to pick your brain on, because you're very knowledgeable with gut health. So we talked a little bit about the first things that you think of when you have a new patient or a new client, and we talked a little bit about how gut health fits in there. So talk to me on that level.
I think and I'm getting better at this, hopefully, but asking more really in-depth questions as far as, because I used to ask like, how's your digestion? People are like, fine. But if they don't have that awareness, which most people don't, if they're coming to someone like us for help, and that could be a simple, like a 2-week, just, break it down into more manageable, timepieces, as far as like, maybe let's try taking out gluten or taking out something that you may have an inkling of that isn't making you feel great. And this can start, even before that, just like journaling your food and starting to write notes of like, was this a good day for you? How was your mood? How was your energy level? Were you grumpy? Were you hangry? Or, did you go to the bathroom every day? Like trying to build awareness that way. Like, was I bloated? Did, everything kind of feel like it's working correctly? And from there, we kind of can start making some adjustments, but implementing some structure as far as, maybe it's an elimination diet. Maybe it is narrowing someone's window of eating, and maybe that's an easy structure for them because they just have like late night snacking, or, because I do think, having a minimum fasting period overnight is really beneficial and really easy to implement for people in as far as their gut health, just giving their gut a break so it can do what it naturally does to rest, repair, and recover over that nighttime period. You see a lot of people eating till 10 o'clock and then they get up for work at 6 a.m. and that's a pretty short window for your body to kind of rest and repair. So it can be some of those really simple things like hydration, movement, and honestly, like making sure people go to the bathroom every day. That's one of my favorite questions because everybody knows like that's a concrete, like it's not even a feeling, right? It happens, right? So it's like, are you bloated? And then they're like, well, I don't know. And they're like, do you have heartburn or all these other things? But it's like, are you going to the bathroom every day, if not multiple times a day? And I get a lot of people would say no, which is just like, to me, I would be so grumpy. So I think that's another thing you can get people to buy in to, because they feel better, they feel lighter. And so they can just like, they're like, wow, if I can do, these little steps and feel this much better, what else or how good can I really feel if I buy into this a little bit more? So that's one of my favorite questions to ask, is just get people like pooping every day. It's great.
Seriously, it's a wonder that that isn't like very well known. Because like you said, if I wasn't pooping every day, I'd be just an angry person. Like just so much pent up, no pun intended, but like so much pent up. Like, and that's funny because you've told me this story before where you had a client who said, yeah, you asked if their digestion was normal. They're like, yeah, it's super normal. And then you ask like, okay, paint what that looks like for me. Like, what does normal look like for me? Do you go to the bathroom every day? Oh gosh, no. And that's crazy. And you found out what it was, 5 to 7 days?
Yeah, 5 to 7 days, like between bowel movements. And I was, wait, what? No, that's not normal. And we helped her with just like, I'm not usually a huge supplement person first, but this was a clinical setting. And so she was, a lot of, and I should be more open to it because it can make people feel a little bit better sooner. And for her, that was definitely the case, like getting some supplements on board to help her digest her food better. I think it was, we probably said digestive enzymes, magnesium, and like vitamin C, maybe a fiber supplement. I don't think we went that far. Maybe a probiotic, but just a couple supplements. And she came in 2 days later. She's like, I've gone to the bathroom every day this week. And I was like, yay. And she's like, I don't have time for this. It was hilarious. And she's like, I'm a busy professional. I don't have time to take that many breaks. And I was like, I'm sorry. This is what's normal. So that was just hilarious to me. And yeah, just, she had no idea. She had 4 sons, which I thought was hilarious that she didn't know that this was abnormal. I feel like when you have that many boys in the house, like poop talk is going to come up at some point. But
yeah, you would think. And you would think that she'd be a lot more excited.
Yeah, I know. I thought that would be a good thing. I was like, don't you feel so much better? And she's irritated about her schedule.
That is awesome. Okay, so for someone who is listening right now, can you give me some tangible takeaways that someone who is eager to take action and maybe they found themselves in that spot where they're saying like, I really need to do another diet. I want to do another cleanse or another detox or whatever it is. Can you give them some tangible insight on what they can do to take action on their health? Like, where would you advise that they start?
Oh man, there's so many things. I would probably think about like what you want. Like we say, like change your identity is like, I'm a healthy person. What does a healthy person do? And like change that to, your version of healthy as far as like what you want your life to look like, and kind of start to re-engineer. And that might be hard in the respect of doing this on your own because, a lot of people are like, well, I want to be sick, have a 6-pack shredded and crush, whole pizzas every night. That's not realistic. But I would probably focus on lifestyle things like, is my sleep okay? Do I get to bed at a decent time? How's my hydration? How's my stress? Look at your schedule, see how you can make that your schedule, more conducive to a healthy lifestyle. So maybe that is going to bed earlier. Maybe it's, bringing dinner up so we're not eating so late. Maybe it's eating as a family. And then for eating as a family, hopefully that can be a more whole foods meal. But there's so many ways to start. But I would probably go with a routine first, because then we're not looking at, is this healthy, is this not? It's the actual things you do every day.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because saying, oh, you can focus on sleep, digestion, and stress, it almost doesn't sound very sexy. Like it doesn't.
It's not. It's so disappointing.
It's unbelievably disappointing to most people until they've actually seen the way that it impacts every single portion of your life. But those really not glamorous, not flashy things, honestly, make a longer term difference than that juice cleanse that would give you like
none of that's
diarrhea for the next 4 days and you'd feel like you lost 8 pounds. And then the second that you start eating real food again, you gain it all back. Those routines and those habits that shape you as a person are so much more beautiful when it comes to creating and controlling your own health. And I like that you went for a really boring answer. And I hate to keep harping on how boring it was, but like, even if
well, that's disappointing, but it's true. Like you said.
Yeah, like even if you did actually change your diet very successfully, but you weren't sleeping at night, you wouldn't see half of the results. You really couldn't. You're not giving your body what it primarily needs, foundationally needs, in order to get where you want to go. I like your answer.
Well, I think it just gets you that much farther because, like you said, you get energy from two places, either food or sleep. So if you're not sleeping enough, you're probably going to be eating more. And also, if you're sleeping more, you probably won't be eating as much. And maybe that's the calorie deficit you've been looking for. It's just getting to bed on time. And then if everything else, like those boring things we mentioned, if you're not stressed, if you're sleeping, if you're happier, food becomes part of the scenery. It's not the main focus of like, oh my gosh, I have to control this. I have to make sure it's perfect. It's like, it's just what you do to live. And that's the ultimate goal of nutrition or working with a client, is like that stuff falls to the background because it's not center stage. It's not the most important thing in your life anymore. It's just what you do. And that's when you've, I think, really succeeded.
Yeah, I'm like smiling ear to ear. I love what you're saying right now. Specifically, about 3 years ago, I felt like I was just thinking about food so much all the time. And I was thinking, I wish there were something in my life that made this not a big deal. Like there was such other beautiful things going on that food wasn't a focus at all. Like food was just something, oh, I had to take a break. I'm really hungry. I didn't even realize. And for me, like, honestly, that came with when I started filling my life with things that filled me up. And like I found that for me, painting is something I've done my entire life. And like that was actually my first major in college. I've always loved art. And I found that when I am painting, I'll go 10 hours without thinking about anything because nothing else really matters. I could care less about food. And therefore, I have no need to be filled. And when we constantly don't sleep, don't manage our stress, don't even think about the routines and the reason why we might be eating in the first place, food is always going to have that hold on us that it really doesn't deserve in our lives. So I do think that it's a really good place to start, even just saying like, okay, nothing else, sleep.
Yeah.
If your sleep is good, stress.
Yes.
And like that is a whole nother animal in itself. Being literally, stress creates inflammation in the gut lining. Stress is one of the main causes of all chronic diseases and one of the most consistent underlying causes of all of them. And we think it doesn't affect us. Just like we think food doesn't affect us long term. Like these things are shaping our life without us understanding or us realizing. So I think those are really good places to start. First of all, before I move forward, is there anything you wanted to add on or glaze over with that?
No, I would just reiterate your point as far as stress. And it's something I think that we're good at managing and not good at managing. Take that good at ignoring probably. And that's something that I saw in my own family. A year to the day that my dad passed away, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer for the third time. And that's not a coincidence. And honestly, when she was diagnosed, I was like, I'm sorry, Mom, but I'm not surprised. And I was home cooking for her at the time in grad school for nutrition. She's a PE teacher, retired now, but she was a PE teacher for elementary school. We had horses. We lived on a farm. You know, should have been like the picture of health, and she's not overweight or any of these, you know, classic signs, but yet diagnosed with cancer again. And she's rightfully kind of, you know, pretty pissed. And she's like, what the heck? I do all the things right. And I was like, Mom, it's a pretty big statistic that stress is a powerful factor and, you know, creator of disease. And so, you know, it turns out there's some other underlying chronic conditions like Lyme disease and mold toxicity and stuff like that. But stress is just a powerful, huge, powerful factor in things. So yeah, I think we're kind of oblivious to the fact of how much it does affect us on just the chronic level.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we are coming to a close, but Ali, thank you so much for coming on today. Tell me and tell anyone who's listening, how can they find you? How can they ask you more questions if they have any more on what you're specifically talking about? Where can we look for you?
Probably most active on Instagram ali.parkside nutrition, ali.parkside nutrition. And there should also be a link to a free Facebook group that we try to focus on all things health, but a lot on gut health. And if you look back through the videos that are posted to that group, there's a full 2-week kind of gut reset that we ran in December. And so every day we were talking about a different aspect as far as gut health. We ran through a little mini elimination diet. There's lots of resources posted to that page as well, as far as more information, resources, all the things. So that's probably the best resource for people. And then, of course, website parksidenutrition.com has a lot there as well.
Okay. And I'm going to actually make sure that that is all listed below in the show notes. But Ali, thank you so much for coming on. I think you added a ton of value, and honestly kind of feel like I'm going to be seeing you again.
I hope so. I have had so much fun talking to you, and I had fun last time we talked as well. So yeah, anytime. This was so much fun.
Thank you. All right. Have a good one.
You too.
At the end of the day, you get to choose who influences you. So thank you for listening to today's episode, and please reach out if it encouraged you at all. You can find me on Instagram at keepyourplantson or online at howtokeepyourplantson.com, where I have my online nutrition program, meal plans, and recipes. Have a happy, healthy week.